Morning, YouTube friends and family. Long time no talk. A lot has happened since I last vlogged. My beard's grown in. Summer has turned to fall. The kids are playing sports. You know, I'm on to a new project, the slaughterhouse project. Well, it's not done, but a major component of it's done. Time goes by, you know, and stuff happens, and I'm not capturing everything every day, so when I do vlog, there's going to be a lot of updating to make. Today is going to be making Tomatillo Salsa. I'll be doing that a little bit later, but I thought because it's fall and it's just absolutely beautiful, I gotta show you some fall colors today before it starts to pour rain. We're supposed to get the remnants of Tropical Depression Nate here today, so it's gonna rain at some point. Hey, thanks for coming with me. I'll see you around. The weather here in Maine has been unusually warm for this time of year. We've had temperatures regularly in the 70s and even, you know, as high as like 85 at the end of September and the beginning of October. I mean, today it's like 65 degrees. Tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 70s. This is October. It should be fall. You know, because the photo period is the same as spring, a lot of the springtime animals are starting to come alive. Like black flies are having a new hatch. I've heard spring peepers again. It's really kind of interesting. It almost makes you think like there's some bigger thing that's happening with the weather, like some bigger phenomenon or something. Bush hogged my property, you know, the fields and the open areas. And for those of you that don't know what a bush hog is, imagine a very large lawnmower used for mowing grass that mows small trees and is pulled behind a tractor. Now I'm just sort of cleaning up around the edges, the parts I couldn't get to with the bush hog. I've also mowed the fields, so now they're open again. And it'll keep them fields so that trees don't grow up in them, which is what happens in Maine. If you leave pretty much any land to its own designs, trees grow. Tell us what you're doing there, Mother.
I'm inscribing, what do you call it? The provenance. And that my parents bought this back in 1963 when they first moved to Kearsarge, New Hampshire at the Yield House in North Conway. in Northfield, Vermont. And my parents bought this on their honeymoon. That's how old it is. It could be even older.
So why
It was a real coffee grinder.
why are you doing all this?
It's provenance.
Well, why all of a sudden this stuff?
Oh, my mother is moving on and has sold her. Oh, look at the brilliant of the brilliant red, just like it's on fire.
Don't forget your bungee cords hanging there.
Okay, dearie.
All right, Mother. We'll see you now. Thanks for the visit.
I was hoping you'd be home.
Well, it is a holiday today, you know.
I know, I took a chance. Frightening driving over here.
Yes, in the great United States of America, today is a federal and state holiday, which means people get the day off. So I thought I'd take it off too. It's a Monday. You know, it's meant to celebrate Christopher Columbus, who discovered North America, which really meant that he just was the first of many waves of colonization, which brought pestilence and famine and, you know, decimation of the native peoples. So, you know, and in fact, Columbus was not the first European to discover or come upon North America and have some kind of, you know, settlement or interaction with the land and the people. In fact, the first people that explored in this area were the Nordic peoples, and there was an explorer slash merchant man. I think he was in for lumber and grapes and was doing all, was Bjarni Horlifsson, and this was in like 992 AD. He came and hit I think Newfoundland and came down to New Brunswick, and there's speculation that he even landed someplace in the Gulf of Maine, you know, New Brunswick down around to the coast of Maine. So really, today should be called Bjarni Horlifsson Day. So let's take this day, let's celebrate it, but let's not forget the genocide that occurred as the result of Columbus, and think more about maybe, you know, the native people that were here before us, and what a wonderland this must have been. All right, YouTube, we're into this is my Tomatillo Salsa making episode. I'll be very honest up front, this is not my recipe. Most of the recipes that I show you are not my recipes. I just have found really good recipes from other sources. This one came from the almighty web. Okay, this is a delightful recipe by Sherry Brooks Vinton. I don't know who she is, but thank you very much for this great recipe. The basic recipe calls for 5 pounds of tomatillos. I am doubling my recipe because I have a bumper crop of tomatillos, but you gotta take off these little husks, you know, give them a quick rinse, and then roast. 10 pounds is a lot of tomatillos. Husked tomatillos, rinsed as well. You know, like I said, the recipe calls for 5 pounds, so I'm actually gonna do, I guess, almost 2.5 times the original. But I'll give you the proportions in the single unit. So 5 pounds tomatillos. I'll give you conversions to metric, don't worry. So the next step is basically just to roast every single one of these. My broiler is painfully small, so this portion takes a long time. But I'll just do it in rounds and prepare my next ingredients. The recipe indicates that the stem side, you know, the flat side should go down, which is kind of convenient because it's flat and it wants to sort of land there. So fill up whatever tray it is with flat side down and stuff it in the broiler. our school district, all 7th graders get their own MacBooks issued to them, and they go to great use.
Yep.
Oh, you're not supposed to be doing this?
Watching.
Who's watching? Who's watching?
No.
Next ingredient, just roasting, broiling rather, a pound of onions, but I'm doubling it, right? See that nicely roasted, blackened on the top. Gotta get them blackened. One of the things that I like most about this recipe is there's very little prep that you have to do to the vegetables. You just have to husk the tomatillos, roughly chop the onions into rings, and then you just let the blender do all the work after that. Want to leave a few chunks if you like chunky salsa. Recipe calls for 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I'm doubling and a halving it, so for me that means 8. And then of course there are the all-important jalapeno peppers. Depending upon how spicy you like it, 5 to 10 jalapenos for the single recipe. I gotta say, I'm wicked proud of myself this year for the peppers I grew. I grew a ton of jalapenos this year. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Look at. And habaneros. I've never grown a habanero pepper before, and again, just so much fun to see. To grow something so incredibly spicy. I know this looks like a teeny little pepper, but I thought I would be bold and just eat like a slice of this last night, and it nearly burned my face off. I don't have to tell you not to like pick your nose or anything, right? After handling jalapenos, these are wicked.
Pick your nose while you're eating anyway.
Oh yeah, thank you, honey. Don't pick your nose while you're eating anyway. I suppose eating or cooking. Okay. Yeah.
That's gross.
Point taken. That is gross. So, the jalapenos. You know, if you don't like fiery hot salsa, you can also take the seeds out. The seeds are even spicier than the flesh. So. Now we're starting to get into some flavors. The zest from 2 limes and then the juice of 3 to 4 limes, about a half a cup of lime juice. You know, if you're gonna zest your limes, you probably ought to wash the outsides because you're gonna be eating it. So I've pre-washed these. I'm zesting 5, and then I'll juice all 9 of these. I received this microplane last Christmas from Andre. It is the perfect tool for zesting. Ingredient to prep is the cilantro. I need 1 cup times 2.4, about 2.5 cups of chopped cilantro. Again, the single recipe calls for 1 cup of coarsely chopped cilantro. step is going to be roasting the onions. Right, as soon as your onions, like mine, are nice and blackened and caramelized, they go into the blender with some of the tomatillos that have already been blended. It's very difficult to blend just onions by themselves, so you gotta have a little bit of liquid with it. This is my last round of onions, and then I'm on to the peppers. Okay, on one of your last swirl batches with your jalapeños or your onions, throw in your garlic.
Refill packet. I need the red plug too.
God.
I need the cap. Refill packet.
Oh,
Cap
splashing. After all the blending and roasting of all the ingredients, put it all into a non-reactive pot and bring to a boil. Last step for preparation of ingredients is all of the other stuff you prepped up, right? All of my lime goes in, lime juice, lime zest. Look at all that zest. It's a bowl full of zest. Cilantro. 2 teaspoons of salt, 5 milliliters. 2 teaspoons, so that's 10 milliliters of salt. I'm double and a halving it, so I'm gonna do 5. Do we have 5? Oh, and that's of kosher salt, so for regular salt, I guess you just cut that in half. 1, 2 and a half. Oh, and vinegar. Dang, forgot the vinegar. How much?
Is it white or apple cider?
It's white in this case, yeah.
Does it make a difference?
Yep, it does, actually. I think it's a different flavor, and white is a little bit more potent. Isn't it funny that the same stuff we use to clean our toilet, we also put in our salsa?
Why would you say that?
3/4 cup white vinegar. Simmer. Bring to a boil and simmer for 5 minutes. It'll thicken up a little bit. Then add all of the juicy, yummy flavorings from the blender. That's it. The salsa's ready to put in the jars, and then, or you can freeze this. Just let it cool down and put it in the freezer. I prefer to have the jars because our freezer is not very big. This is a concoction that you have to put through a water bath. You can't just let it cool down in the jar. You actually have to boil it 10 minutes in the jar so that you get, proper decontamination, I guess. Really good stuff. I hope you've had fun with Tomatillo Salsa. I'll leave you with me putting it in the jars, but this has been a very long process. It's been about 5 hours, so consider that before you just say, oh yeah, that looks like fun.